Hello everyone, my name is the RetroDan, and today I decided to make more of a listicle video in which I'm going to tell you all about my favorite RPGs that I've played over the years and that I consider to be my favorite until now, because there are still many RPGs I want to play that might make this list in the future. So bear with me, for this video is unscripted and I'm trying to make the best of it, but these games are in no particular order. I like all of them, maybe excluding the first one I'm going to tell you about, because that one is probably my favorite game of all time. So to start things off, we have a game called Chained Echoes, which if you've been watching the channel you have noticed that next to Warframe it's probably the biggest B-roll footage I've been using in the most recent uploads. Chained Echoes is an indie jrpg developed by Matthias Linde, a German developer which developed the game on its own, and it got a huge score on Metacritic, and it's a turn-based jrpg that tries to reminisce of classic JRPGs, same things like Chrono Trigger and the original Final Fantasies up until 10, going for a pixel art look and featuring an amazing story and combat system that you probably have never seen in other JRPGs or turn-based combat games, since it's quite unique. You have to manage a meter in which you have to stay out of the red zone so you don't take more damage, but even if you're in the red zone you take more damage but deal more damage. If you are in the green zone you take less damage but deal less damage, and if you are in the yellow zone it's basically an in-between. So you have to manage this gauge throughout your fights so you can be on a level in which you feel comfortable fighting in, which was very interesting when it comes to combat. It was something I had never seen and I really enjoyed it. The story is also very good and the game features huge exploration aspects. The worlds are beautiful. It also has mecha combat, which was fun to see in a JRPG that featured turn-based combat, and the game focuses on quality of life. This is a JRPG that doesn't feature the JRPG aspects of an RPG. You don't have to heal your entire party after any fight ends. You don't have to grind for XP. The game basically does that for you. All you have to do is focusing on enjoying the game, which makes this one of my favorite games of all time when it comes to RPGs, because it's just so beautiful. The soundtrack is amazing. I've used it for a lot of videos. I like the story so much. It's so well written for a game developed by one person, and you should definitely check it out. It's not that expensive. It usually stays around the 25 euro range, and you should definitely grab it if you have the chance to do so. Then right after that we're jumping from an indie game to a well-known IP, which is Star Wars, and I chose Star Wars The Old Republic because it's an MMORPG, but it's one I've enjoyed playing a lot when it comes to its story aspects and its character building aspects and its customization. I love the customization. I've even put some money into the game. I've indulged in some crate openings. I know, I shouldn't, but I did, and I had a lot of fun while I was playing the game, so I don't mind it at all. The game has a housing system which I find really fun. The individual stories of the classes are probably some of the most well-written Star Wars games that I've ever played as well, maybe even rivaling the stories of Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor. And if you are a Star Wars fan, Star Wars The Old Republic is an MMORPG that you should definitely try out, and even if you don't have a subscription you can pay for one and your account gets upgraded and you have access to everything that's come out until now for the rest of your life. Your account goes to a preferred status and you can just enjoy the entirety of the story. If you go online and search about Star Wars The Old Republic, you'll see everyone going about how good the cinematics are, and the in-game stories are just as good as those cinematics, so you should definitely try it out. And it's cemented itself as one of my favorite RPGs ever, even though I've only played like 130 hours of it. Then, to no one's surprise, we have none other than the Dark Souls trilogy. Well, the Dark Souls trilogy, yes, I mean all of it, including Dark Souls 2. I really like Dark Souls 2 as well. Sue me if you want to. But I played through the entire trilogy last year, which was really late if you know how long these games have been out. But I really enjoyed the entire trilogy. My favorite one out of the trilogy is definitely Dark Souls 1, even better than Dark Souls 3, yes. I much enjoyed the world building and world connections of Dark Souls 1 compared to the linearity and worlds traveling or fast traveling of Dark Souls 3, but that doesn't exclude the fact that Dark Souls 3 is an amazing game with amazing DLC. Dark Souls 2 I really enjoyed as well. It has some amazing settings that people like to ignore when talking crap about Dark Souls 2, but I played through this entire trilogy while I was at home sick last year, and I really enjoyed it, and it has probably become one of my favorite genres, Souls-like games. They have amazing RPG elements as well, even though people nowadays only think of them as action games, especially when it comes to things like Elden Ring and Sekiro. I've played every one of them, despite Sekiro actually. I've played Dark Souls Trilogy, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. Bloodborne is probably on top there as one of my favorites. I even have a video on the channel about Bloodborne if you want to check it out, when I got the platinum for it. But I don't know why, since it's so much more gothic, and compared to the dark fantasy and fantasy setting of Dark Souls, I feel that Dark Souls has its RPG elements. It shines a different light on them that Bloodborne doesn't. I feel Bloodborne has more of an actual action game, as other people feel about the entire series, than the Dark Souls trilogy. So that's why I put the Dark Souls trilogy here, because I actually prefer it to some aspects over Bloodborne, but Bloodborne is also one of my favorites, so it's hard to say which one would get on the list, but overall I decided to go with the Dark Souls trilogy. Then moving on, we have none other than the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, which as of now only consists of 2 games, the third one coming out God knows when, but I love these games. I have to be honest, I didn't play the original Final Fantasy VII, I have yet to play the original Final Fantasy VII, but the remake trilogy, it's just so good. I can't discuss this enough. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth deserves to win Game of the Year 2024, even though I don't discuss those Game of the Year questions anymore, because I think they are weird when it comes to how they're being approached in the most recent years. But if I had to give Game of the Year to an RPG this year, or to a game in general, it would be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I lost all my footage of it, so you're seeing Final Fantasy VII Remake footage. But both of these games almost made me cry at the end. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth way more than Final Fantasy VII Remake. But if you play both, you will have an amazing experience with Remake, which is more linear, and then Rebirth has an open world which builds upon every system that was built in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it adds so much to it. The story is such well written, and the mechanics of the game, the combat is so refined. You have so many options in how you want or can approach combat that I wouldn't recommend these games enough to anyone. And if you are interested in playing Final Fantasy VII, this Remake trilogy is the way to do it, and don't hold yourself any longer and go play these games. Before moving into the first place in this video, I want to give an honorable mention to my boys World of Warcraft and World of Warcraft Classic, because I couldn't not talk about these games. Probably some of my most played games of all time. WoW Classic, I played it throughout the entire pandemic. I've raided, I've made a lot of friends. I had to quit the game because honestly it was somewhat of an addiction, and I was almost ruining my life and my in real life relationships because of it, which is quite a serious topic that I'm not going to approach here. But even though I've stopped playing the games at all, and yes, what you are seeing right here on the background is footage of me playing the games on live stream back when this channel was created. Some of my first content on this channel was about World of Warcraft. I had live streams and videos when I was under 100 subscribers, which was a long time ago, but these games have cemented themselves in my heart. They're probably some of my favorite games of all time, even though I'll probably never play them again because they are just so time consuming, and there's so much I want to touch on this industry when it comes to variety and games that I can't indulge myself in some World of Warcraft. But I wanted to give this honorable mention to the World of Warcraft community, so here it is. And for the first place on this list, I had to give the most basic answer of all time, which is Skyrim. Yeah, there's not much to say about it. It's Skyrim. If you know Skyrim, you know why everyone enjoys it, and if you haven't played it yet and you're a gamer and you're watching this video, come on, what are you doing? I have like 4 accounts on Steam with Skyrim. I have a Skyrim copy for Xbox 360, I have Skyrim copy for PS4, I have Skyrim copy for PS5, and here comes the masochistic part. I've only played the base game. I've never modded Skyrim. I love Skyrim so much that I'm just willing to play it over and over and over and over again in the base game, maybe with Sky UI to change the UI here and there, but I just love this game so much. And if you played Skyrim when it came out and you played Oblivion, you just felt for it. I remember going with my cousin throughout the release of Skyrim and going around picking up the game and trying to find a copy of the game, and it was sold out everywhere. And that's a testament to just how good this game is. I have no way to describe Skyrim in a small video. I have 100%ed the game on PlayStation because on PC I just reloaded the game endlessly to try different builds, but I really enjoy Skyrim and it's probably my favorite game of all time. Not just my favorite RPG of all time, but my favorite game of all time, and I would love for everyone to play it at least once in their lives. If maybe it's not for you, it's quite old at this point, it's almost on the verge of being 13 years old, which is scary to say the least. But yeah, this is my favorite RPG and my favorite game of all time. But that was it for today. I just wanted to tell you about some of my favorite RPGs. I hope you play some of these, and I know I'm missing some key factor RPGs in here, such as The Witcher, and I've played The Witcher 1 and 2. I want to get to 3 eventually. I'm missing CRPGs that I talked about in one of my latest videos, which you should definitely check out as well. But I'm going to get through these eventually. I have a lot of games to play. I have a huge backlog, as I've mentioned numerous times on this channel, but I just wanted to tell you what were some of my favorites. I also didn't mention, but I really like Octopath Traveler. Haven't beaten it yet, don't want to talk about it here on the channel until I go over it again to get some thoughts out. Things like Xenoblade Chronicles, and I mean, there are so many RPGs. The RPG is a genre that has been out for like decades, so there would be a lot to talk about. Tell me in the comments what are some of your favorite RPGs, give me recommendations, I'm always open to it. But other than that, this has been the Retro Den. I'm out.